But my mind is like, you have to eat breakfast. You have to eat before you leave the house. And it's like, I'm not going into the Sahara Desert, like, as in, there will be food in town. There will be food in the city. When you start listening to your belly, you'll uncover how crazy your mind can be and how it's so based on scarcity and lack of food. It's real scarcity thinking, because it's like 99% of the time, I think we are someplace, or we're going someplace where there's food here, there's food there, there's food we can get on the way. There's really no fear of us with food. Like, we've a lot of food, we're eating a lot of food. So like, it's just an interesting thing when you start challenging your mind that, like, hey, I'm totally up for eating. It's just, it really feels like from my stomach now that my stomach needs a rest. It's not actually asking for food. So I'm just going to listen to that. A lot of the work we do when we're improving our relationship with food or our body or our eating, 50% of it is about learning afterwards and like being very comfortable to learn lessons. So being comfortable to learn lessons is that you don't give yourself grief, you don't give yourself guilt or shame or whatever for making a wrong or uncomfortable decision. So that really is needed here, right? When you're figuring out the difference between what's a kind of frenzied, disordered eating craving and then what's a real nutritional craving, right? Because say, for instance, I had a client this morning and she said she'd walk by Marina Market. She was kind of thinking she'd head in there and get some ice cream. But then by the time she got in there, she saw these pistachio cookies. So she got one of them and then she headed home and she had one with a cup of tea. And she was like, do you know what? It was actually too sweet. She was like, I finished it, but it wasn't a nice feeling in my belly. And I was like, that's the whole thing with us improving our eating. So much of it is reflection. So much of it is like, wow, that's really good to know. That's really good that I have that data on those specific cookies and I'm aware now how they make me feel, because there's maybe other cookies that don't make me feel like that. But again, there wouldn't need to be any guilt or shame. And I just know I would have had so many times, right, at the very beginning of all of this, where my mind would have been like, get the cookie, get the cookie. Oh, you need it. Oh, it'll be gorgeous. It'll be so nice. It'll be amazing. It'll be amazing. It'll be amazing. And then after I had it, I was like, that was way too much. And my belly totally didn't need that. And now I feel slightly uncomfortable. And how I used to see that was like, oh my God, my mind won again. Because I'm like, actually getting out of eating and weight issues is kind of a battle with our mind. It's like our mind is the one that created disordered eating and weight problems. And now we're trying to honor and strengthen and support our body by listening to it. And so there's so many times where my mind tricked me and was like, oh, you need this and this will be amazing or whatever. And then I'd have it and be like, oh my God, it really wasn't. So that was my mind playing tricks on me. I really think the main message here, right, is slow it way down. So when you think of a food, really run through the entire thing, like in your head, how it tastes, how it feels, and also really be so supportive and talk to yourself like a really loving mom and be like, pet, you could have it tomorrow as well if you wanted. Like, as in, if now's not the perfect time for it, you could have it later, you could have it tomorrow. Like, there's no pressure on you. Don't feel you need to make your belly uncomfortable or anything. And I had another client this morning and she was at an afternoon tea and she was really proud of herself because usually at something like that, she'd be really stuffed. It was kind of a family weekend and she'd be really uncomfortable and stuff from all the eating. But like, really from her story, she could appreciate scones are gorgeous. She's pro scones. She's not anti scones, but she could kind of juggle the fact that they are delicious and equally my belly would not like the feeling of them right now. So it's like, again, it's a yes to scones, but probably like later or tomorrow or another time. And I think that's such a lovely skill. And that's really like a lovely feeling of trust as well, right? That we're kind of saying like, okay, if this is just my mind kind of going into panic, if you kind of learn to soothe it and be like, hey pet, there's always going to be more food later. There's always going to be nicer food around the corner. That can really like settle down that voice. And then with day on day of doing that, you start being whatever the opposite of food scarcity is, like food abundance. You start really knowing from life experience that anytime you don't have the scone or the chocolate or the ice cream now, it literally is there for you later or tomorrow, still in a shop waiting for you should you want it.